spectrum is broadening. The mean stands where it must, but the amplitude of the vibration is increasing. That which cannot change is not changing, obviously, and that is the mean, the center. But around it, the movement is amplifying with the passage of time. I'll explain it to you. The first creatures in the process of evolution were single-celled. Even before there were just the proteins and other large molecules. So let's begin from the single-celled creatures. They were at the beginning of time. Beginning of time in the sense of evolution, not at the beginning of chronological time. Chronological time, from a physicist sense, had begun at the time of the Big Bang. So they were at the beginning of evolutionary time, the little, one-celled creatures. They had very little restlessness. And so the desire to go to the center, the desire to go back was also extremely faint, almost non-existent. And then came the bigger organisms. They had little more restlessness, but still very, very insignificant. So no animal, for example, would have a craving for meditation. Because you will crave to meditate only when you are sufficiently restless. No organism that evolved in the course of the developmental journey of life, the evolutionary journey, was restless enough to seek salvation. Animals still, even today, are not restless enough to seek liberation. They don't feel bondages. Even man, before a very recent point in time, was just another animal. Not greatly restless, and therefore not greatly inclined to probe or inquire into life. Inquiry into life begins only when a certain wonderment, a certain feeling of the beyond grips you. If that feeling of the beyond is not there, then nothing will grip you. You will not want to go into the mystery of life. And then certain things start happening. That's what history tells us. That's what the archaeological remains tell us. The caveman started etching, scratching, and even painting on the walls of the caves. Now something is happening. Something that doesn't happen with animals. Man is coming into his own. Man is trying to search for meaning. Man is trying to create something that outlasts him. Man very well knows that something etched on the stone would outlive him. So man is beginning to get a whiff of eternity. Something beyond his own death. He knows, I will die, but this will remain. Man started constructing stories. Man started worshipping nature. Man started dealing in subtleties. Man started talking of spirits. The moment man started talking of spirits, howsoever foolish that gossip was, you could say the great spirit of the buffalo is the commanding spirit of our tribe. Tribes still say that. All hail to the great buffalo. The great buffalo was our ancestor. When you were at Bhopal and we went to the Manav Sangrahalaya, you remember that myth that you read about the origin of the universe, the tribal myth? What did it say?
It started with a crow.
So, when the Bada Dev, God, wanted to create the universe, he took a lump of his shit and with it created the crow. And the crow went to the Keech Kamal. The Keech Kamal is the Kechua. And gave it a tight whack on the back. And what did the Kechua, the earthworm, do? It had a lot of earth in its mouth. So the moment it was slapped on its back, earth emerged from its mouth. And this is the way the earth was created. But when the earth was created, it started rolling about here and there. So Kekramal was called. Now who is Kekramal? Kachua, the tortoise. Now why was he called? Because he had a very strong back. So he made the earth sit on his back. And this is how the whole process of creation came to completion. So man is now thinking of all these things. You can either laugh at the silliness of the whole story, or you can see how the mind of man is now going into questions that simply don't concern an animal. No animal wants to inquire about the origin of the universe. But here you have a mind. The mind has come into being. And mind is a particular restlessness. Early restlessness was simple, so it was quenched through all these stories. But as man progressed through time and his intellect sharpened and his experiments sharpened and his experience sharpened, today his restlessness has also multiplied, amplified 1,000 times. And the more is the restlessness, the more is the desire to come back to the center. Because who wants to remain restless? It's like a swing. The more you push it to one side, the more energy it gains to come back to the central position. Like a pendulum. So that is what has changed over the course of evolution. The center has remained the same. But the amplitude of vibration has gone on increasing. And today it is at its peak. Obviously, because today is the present moment. The peak keeps varying with time. 100 years later, that particular moment would be the peak. So all that which can change has changed with evolution. And that which cannot change has not changed with evolution. It doesn't matter what kind of pendulum you have. It doesn't matter how long it is. What does not change? The center does not change. Time period will change, 2 by root L by G and all those things. But will the mean ever change? The truth has not changed. And all that which is changeable has kept changing. But that which has kept changing is now restless to come to that which does not change. And we are changing and changing and changing. So we are now desperate to come to one point of rest. That is the condition of man today. Hmm? Man's consciousness at any point in man's history is nothing but the amplitude of this vibration. What is consciousness? Thoughts, experiences, concepts, worldview, self-view. All this that you have is nothing but a displacement from the center. And today you have a lot of knowledge. And every bit of knowledge is conceptual. Man thinks of himself as something. And man thinks of himself as something very, very stubbornly, because he has science and empirical evidence to back his assertions. So there is a lot of latent hunger today for spirituality. People call this the worst time. They say this is the very nadir of Kali Yuga. This is equally the time when a great subconscious urge is there to be liberated. To be liberated of all this that man has woven around himself. But that urge is pretty much subconscious. And because it is subconscious, it is not coming to the surface, so it will keep on magnifying.
More restlessness.
More restlessness will be there, but covered under the placating burden of knowledge. Man would be very badly split. It's like something within you knowing very well that something is grossly wrong. And upon that particular thing, which is shivering and feeling sure that something is grossly wrong, is sitting a knowledgeable, conscious mind that is declaring with utmost authority, no, nothing is wrong, everything is under control. I know, I have my meters, I have my indices, I have my knowledge, and everything is saying that you are all right. Like a patient in front of a doctor, The doctor has methods to check a patient. The doctor has certain indices on which to measure health. And every which way health can be measured. It is coming out fine. All the pathology tests are fine. All the readings on the electronic equipments are fine. And the doctor is confidently declaring that the patient is fine. Because everything bodily about the patient is fine. But the patient knows that he is sobbing within and he can't even prove it. That's the condition of mankind. And the more he sobs within, the more he runs the danger of being declared a lunatic. Because what do all the medical reports certify? That about him everything is alright. He is saying you are looking from a distance and saying that everything is alright. But here I am experiencing something here, within the pit here. And I know something is severely wrong. But the conscious mind, the doctor, the educated doctor, the knowledgeable doctor, has to either accept that all his knowledge is hollow, or he must declare the patient mad. Because these two can't go together. Your knowledge is saying all is well. Your soul is not saying all is well. There was a recent flight crash, you know how it happened. I'm not an aviation expert, but this is roughly how it happened. The plane had a very modern auto flight system. The system kept on saying that the plane is cruising along nicely. Whereas what was really happening was that the plane was dipping towards the sea. The system failed. The pilots knew that the flight was going horribly wrong, and the pilots kept on trying to correct the course of the flight. But a greatly knowledgeable system was installed in the flight. The more the pilots corrected the angle of the flight, the more that system insisted that no, please don't do this. We will tell you what to do with the flight. And the nose of the plane kept pointing downwards, and the plane kept speeding towards the sea and ultimately crashed into the sea. Today we have a lot of systems and we have a lot of faith in those systems. Something within us tells us that the systems are failing us. But we are not prepared to believe that, because otherwise we will be called simply superstitious or uneducated or rustic or irrational. We have been told to be rational. Unfortunately, existence has no respect for your rationality. Unfortunately, your restlessness has no respect for your rationality. Unfortunately, a few unimportant things like love and joy and freedom are not rational. What has changed? Knowledge has changed. And therefore, what has changed? Man's urge to move to the central point untouched by knowledge has also changed. Over the course of evolution, man has simply become more intellectual, more knowledgeable.
They also say this thing that in that single-celled organism, there was no will to really find something of the beyond.
No, obviously there was a will. That is why it was living. Why does any organism live till the next day? Why does Prakriti carry itself forward in time? But that's a very, very rudimentary, a very primitive beginning of the organic restlessness. Very, very basic thing. Very basic thing.
So that's there in animals as well.
Oh, that is there. Don't you see Koham and Soham emote? Before I can get down from my car, Koham starts dancing here. What do you think it is? Something rational? So it is there, but it is very underdeveloped. In man it is quite developed. What does Soham take me to be? He thinks I am that which will give him peace. And therefore he starts waving his tail and doing stuff with his body and goes flat on his back and all those crazy things he does. He too wants that which will bring him to peace. He takes me to be that one. At least for that while. A little later he will take some other bitch to be that one. No, not some other bitch, some bitch to be that one. I'm not a bitch. Another day he'll take some food giver to be that one. Then just a piece of bread will become a substitute of that or an indicator of that. Prakriti is always looking for something. Just looking for something. Now you know why the Upanishad said Annam Brahma. Not that food is Brahma, but in the eyes of the hungry one,
That is something that will be completing.
food is that which will give you that.
You even mentioned it in one of your sessions that when you look at the food with those hungry eyes, you're actually the stomach.
You are just the stomach, yes. And the stomach too is looking for liberation. But instead of liberation, what does it get? It gets the funeral pyre. It's not that the stomach is looking for liberation, please understand. The eye sense is so very enmeshed, entangled with the body, that the stomach and eye are no different. You say, I am Anushka. Show me where is Anushka. Where is Anushka?
Take the whole body.
Everywhere. So Anushka is there also, no? In the stomach.
Yeah.
So the stomach is I. Now if I is looking for liberation, that practically means that the stomach is also looking for liberation. So it is not a silly statement that the flesh is looking for liberation. Actually the flesh is not looking for liberation, but the I has become one with the flesh. Like namak in atta. Getting it? Where will you find salt in bread? Show me. It's everywhere. Where will you find tea in this water? It is everywhere. Similarly, the I sense, which is actually nothing, becomes something very solid, very concrete by identifying with the body. Now, where is I? Actually nowhere, but practically everywhere. So, this gets hurt and you say, I got hurt. No, it is not the finger that gets hurt. The finger has become the I. So, if I is yearning for liberation, you could as well say that the finger is yearning for liberation. So, when the stomach is asking for food, you are justified in saying that the stomach is asking for liberation, and therefore Annam Brahma. Do not mistake me. I am not saying that material wants liberation, but when you become the material, then you want liberation through the material, and you have become the material, so it can be said that the material is wanting liberation. You are now indistinguishable from material.